Hey guys, welcome to season 2 of Let's Talk. And I know it's been a while. We put the first season, ended it, and we went on our little hiatus while we started up the Jersey Ham, as you guys have probably seen on our website and our YouTube channel. We've been out doing vlogs and stuff, so we're back with Let's Talk. We've got some great shows to talk about, don't we, Dylan?
Oh my God, have we got some stuff to talk about? I mean, and stuff that still hasn't even started yet. So
That's
it's
right.
going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about.
So welcome back for season 2.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
So,
You're not going to comment?
yeah, I see you're wearing your toilet seat.
Yeah. I mean, I got to support my Habs no matter what I'm doing, because we won the first.
You just had to bring that up.
I
didn't
did.
you? Yeah.
We won the first game against the Pens, so that's good. We lost the second, but it's okay because everybody knows Habs rule. You're going to get letters about it, but it's okay. I don't care.
Don't talk to me about it. Send them to him. Dylan Stone at ILikeToiletSeatGames.com. No,
Here's to the Habs, baby. Go ahead.
So anyway, today we're going to be talking about
What are you going to be talking about today?
We're
See,
gonna be
nothing changes from season to season.
We're going to be talking about the first episode of Space Force, the first episode of the new Muppet show that's on Disney Plus called Muppets Now. Space Force is airing on Netflix. The first season is up. So every week we're just going to talk about a different show instead of, I know the whole season's already aired, but we're not going to
We're going to do it as
an
an episode at a time.
so that we can kind of,
More
focus.
encapsulate it better.
Exactly.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about Transformers War for Cybertron Siege, which is
First episode
the
there
very
too, right?
first episode of that, which is the first season of a 3-season show. And all of that is, again, on Netflix as well. So,
And this is good because I have questions about the different shows that we're going to talk about anyway.
there you
After
go.
watching them and everything else, I have some questions for you as
So-
a
newbie.
newbie, more or less,
exactly.
yeah.
So, anyway, with the shows, as we go along, we're going to be adding more to them. Because there's some great stuff coming. So, if you're not subscribed, obviously, to like Disney Plus or Netflix or, I'm trying to think what else there is that we might be talking about. I think it's just those two right now because I don't think there's anything on like Amazon Prime or anything. So. And nothing on the regular
Not that
channels
I saw
have started yet
no.
because I know Star Trek Discovery Season 3
hasn't started yet. No.
So, yeah. And at the end, I'm going to give a little tidbit about if you're fans of the Orville, as we were, I'm going to give a little tidbit about what's happening with the Orville. So stay tuned right to the end of the
Cool.
show.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that myself.
Yeah, so it should be fun.
He hasn't even told me off air, so
No, exactly. So,
I mean, I'm not in the loop at all.
so let's talk.
I'm just a co-host. I'm just here for no reason.
So we're going to start with Space Force, and I've got my notes here with Space
He's
Force.
made notes this season.
I have
wow.
notes, yeah.
See, he can learn.
That's right. He can be taught. So Space Force stars Steve Carell, and you guys may know him from The Office, or if you've got little kids, you might know him from the Despicable Me movies. He plays the lead character Gru.
He did the Get Smart movie too.
He did the Get Smart movie. Yep. So he plays 4-star General Mark Naird. And he plays opposite John Malkovich most of the entire season. It's basically the two of them that are the leads in the show. And John Malkovich...
He's a funny guy.
Oh, he is hilarious. And I think, with him and Steve Carell together, it's just super funny. So John Malkovich plays Dr. Adrian Mallory. And the two of them, I think, do a fantastic job together, don't they? They're really funny.
It's not bad.
It's a pretty good show. So if you haven't checked it out, just, it's actually, I know it's like a kind of a goofy, show as it goes, but it actually is based off the fact that Donald Trump did create the actual Department of the Space Force.
Yes, he did.
In the U.S. military.
And they took it and ran with it.
So they kind of took this idea and they ran with it. And yeah, it's filmed in California on, I believe it was UCLA, I think is where they filmed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the show takes place in Colorado is where this new Space Force base is. They have it, hidden in the mountains in an old NORAD base that they refurbished for Space Force. And of course, General Naird is the head of the Space Force Division. He reports to the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense, and of course the President. And the first episode starts with them getting ready to launch their first satellite, because the President has stated he wants boots on the moon, as they call it.
That's right. Yep.
Boots on the moon. And, we don't know where the boots will be made. But
there's
at
just
least there'll be American feet in those boots.
That's right.
There could be bidding on the boots, but
you got to see it in order to catch. There's subtleties there, but watch it and you'll see.
So anyway, the premise of the show is the first episode is they're going to launch what's called the Epsilon 6 into orbit, which is a new satellite for Space Force, and
they can't decide when they're going.
They can't decide when they're going to launch it, how they're going to launch it, if they should launch it.
Oh my God, it's so funny to watch them go through this.
It is pretty good.
It is. It's just so. It's almost scary because it's almost realistic in my mind. I can see it happening. The stupid asses.
And then at one point they talk about, instead of launching the Epsilon, they talk about launching the Yellow Jacket.
Yeah, the Yellow Jacket missile.
And the missile blows up on the.
Oh my God, it was that was the part that made me laugh. Was when they were sitting there in that little window and watching, and
then everything catches fire,
and then everything just blows up. I was like, oh my God, that is just almost too real.
Yeah, and I mean,
and they'd look at it and he just goes, "Fuck!" It was just so funny. It was just really.
It was. Yeah.
There's some funny parts in it, guys.
I like the part where they're standing outside of the Epsilon, and you see General Nairn, and he's standing there, and Dr. Mallory's off to the side, and there's these six other scientists, and he's like, "All right, would somebody like to tell me why we shouldn't launch today?" And someone says it, and he's like, "All right." And would somebody like to tell me why we should launch today? And then this guy walks up from behind, and he's just like the janitor or something. And the janitor says something. He's like, "Yes, there we go." He doesn't even know it's the janitor. And Dr. Mallory's like, "Okay, so we have Doctor this, Doctor this, Doctor this, Doctor this, Doctor this, and Doctor this, and myself, who think launching is a bad idea. And of course, we've got you and I don't know what the guy's name was, Ed or Joe or something. And Joe is her last name? Not that I want to tell you. Okay, so we've got you and Joe who think we should." It's just really funny. It's a great scene.
It's quite hilarious.
Yeah, and as you can see, we've got this new feature where you can see some of what we're talking about behind us. Yep. So it's one of those things.
He's really getting spiffy for season 2 here, you guys.
We redid the intro, and we got a new theme song.
You did yourself a new intro and got everything organized.
So it's good. It's really, but it's a fantastic show. It's got a great cast. Lots of really famous people in it.
I know.
And they're there pretty much throughout the whole season. You'll see them over and over again. One of my other favorite characters that I like in this show is the young captain who flies the helicopter.
Right, yeah.
She's a wonderful character. Great actress. And
I
as
just
the show
remember what her
goes
name
on,
is offhand, but I've seen her around.
Well, I'll tell you.
Oh, tell me.
I've got it right here. She plays. She plays Captain Angela Ali. Yeah.
What's her name?
Her name, the actress's name, is Tawny Newsome.
Tawny Newsome. Okay.
Yeah,
Tommy
she's a
Newsome.
Wonderful actress.
I'd seen her around a few times. When I saw her, I was
but as the show goes on, she'll
get a bigger part, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, she does. She becomes a bigger character. Because I know you haven't finished the whole season.
No, I haven't finished the whole season yet.
I have. So I really encourage everybody out there to watch it. It's a great show. It's pretty.
I'll probably
pretty
finish the season sometime next week somewhere. So
yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and if you get the opportunity to check it out, please do so. Especially because we're going to be talking about it every week, and it's a good show. You'll have a good laugh, and it's we're
going to do one episode. We said per show,
week.
right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
We'll do one.
Yeah.
So I believe the first season is 8 episodes. So for the first 8 episodes,
we'll be talking. Yeah,
we'll have that.
One of the things we'll be talking will be Space Force. So
yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of really funny stuff. There's a lot of really goofy things that happen throughout the show.
And
at the same time, it's like a comedic take on the whole
Space Force.
The whole Space Force idea.
It's almost really very Get Smart.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's just goofy like that, you know. And of course, that's one of the things that appealed to me, as I've always said. It was always one of my favorite shows. So
Mine
it's.
too. Yeah. It's hilarious.
So in that sense, if you guys like that kind of comedy, that Get Smart kind of goofy comedy, you'd appreciate this definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Give it a shot.
The same. It's by the same people who created The Office. which is Steve Carell, and I forget who the other fella is that created The Office with him, but it's the same people.
Yeah.
So it's the same guy that he partnered with for that. But I like this better than The Office. I wasn't a fan of The Office, I'm going to be honest, so I don't know if out there if you are.
Neither was I. Well, that was based on a British show.
It was called The Office
Yeah,
as well. But
yeah.
but anyway, I wasn't a fan of it. But
It's funny how a lot of TV shows like that are based on British ones. Like
There's
All in
a
the
lot
Family
of
was
them.
British, was based on a British show.
Yeah,
Man
there's-
About the House.
yeah, there's a lot of them that come
No,
over
Till
like
Death
that.
Do Us Part. Man About the House was the inspiration for Three's Company. It was a British show.
So yeah, there's
So it's weird how that works. You know, it's
yeah, there's a lot of different shows that come over that way. Well, I mean, like it's the same thing with like Dragon's Den, which in Canada is still Dragon's Den, and in Australia it's Dragon's Den, but in the U.S. they rebranded it to be Shark Tank.
Shark Tank, yeah.
But it's the same thing. There were so many other like America's Got Talent was based off Britain's Got Talent.
Didn't Whose Line Anyway start in
Yes, it did, yes.
That was in the UK first, and then they brought it over here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So so there's a lot of them that
There's
do
a
that.
lot
so.
of them that do it. So I mean, it's really there's so many shows. If you look at the history of them, they all started in
UK.
the UK, and then they came over here. So, but anyway,
Sorry, didn't mean to get you off topic. It was
no,
just-
that's fine. It's so it's a good show. Check it out. And I think my absolute favorite part from the first episode was at the very end. And of course, as we've been saying, there's always going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, there is spoilers.
Yeah,
At the very
be
end,
ready for that.
They do get the Epsilon launched,
Yes,
and at
they
the
do.
end they're like, oh, it should be. Dr. Mallory and General Naird are sitting on General Naird's front porch at home after work, and he's like, oh, the satellite should be coming overhead, and they've got a telescope, and he's like, let's have a look there. Look, there it is. And so they look through the telescope, and as General Naird's looking through the telescope, you see the satellite, and then you see this Chinese satellite come in, and the Chinese has this big like Canada arm thing, and it
Yeah.
just takes off the solar panels, and they float away. And he's like, motherfucker.
Yeah, it
And
was
he just-
so
it was
funny.
so funny.
Oh yeah, you got to watch it.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was really
Yeah.
well. It was a good way to end it.
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah. But the whole thing is like them against the Chinese.
Yeah.
Through the whole season, so it's kind of like the Chinese are
Trying to get the one up.
the one up on them, like even right to the point where eventually they end up with moon bases, and it's just hilarious.
It's gonna be funny, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
if
So there
you-
you go. Check it out.
Check it out.
I'm sure
It's-
you'll enjoy it.
It is pretty good. That said, we're going to move on to Muppets Now, which is the new Muppet show. As I said, that's started on Disney Plus. It first episode aired, I believe it was last Thursday, which was July 31st.
Yep.
Is when it went up. So if you have Disney Plus, check it out. Give it a little watch. Now, I don't know what you thought of it. We did talk a bit before.
Yeah, we did
air,
talk a little
but,
before air, but
I know myself, as I told you, I think the Muppet Show that they had in 2015, which was basically it was they were all like working behind the scenes of Miss Piggy's late night talk show, and it was called Up Late with Miss
Up
Piggy
Late.
or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was they just called it the Muppets. But I thought that show was better than this one myself.
I agreed with you very much so.
Now,
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? Just a quick question for you with the Muppets.
Yep.
When I first went to watch this Muppet show, and I was on Disney and I was doing it, I ended up clicking, I guess it was a Muppets movie that I'd never even heard of before, where there was a puppet trying to join, they went on a tour of the old office, Kermit's old office or something.
That's Walter
Walter, yeah. I ended up
with
starting...
Jason Siegel.
Jason Siegel, that's right.
Yeah.
I started to watch that and I'm going, that's not the one he told me about.
No, well, see what that is.
What is that?
That's Jason Siegel has he's always been a fan of the Muppets, right since he was a young kid, because he's around my age or maybe a little older. So, I mean, he grew up watching the Muppets too, and he wanted to make a Muppet movie, like a Muppet movie like what they used to make years ago in the 80s, where the Muppets would sing and all. So he was the one.
There was
who,
even a dance routine
he
at
was,
one point.
yeah,
there.
he was the one who convinced Disney to let him make that movie. So they made that one.
I've never finished watching it. I got halfway through it, but
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, it's okay. But yeah, Walter was the new puppet they introduced in that.
right. Okay, because that's what it was. Okay, because I started to watch that, as I said, and I was cute. That's not the one. That's not the.
Because there is a scene in the new Muppets now with Walter and Kermit doing photography with Sam the Eagle.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was
That's right.
kind of funny.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
It's like, in a sense, it's not like if you watched the Muppets from the 2015 show that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It only lasted a season on ABC, which is too bad.
It is.
But this new one is more like, it's more like an. I'm trying to think of a good way to. It's more like this kind of show. It's a like a video blog kind of show.
Yeah,
where
because he's trying to put all the things into.
They put them into different segments.
It's
and
Scooter that's trying to get all the pieces together of it. Yeah,
and the Muppets all do
different things, and
right?
then I guess they send them to him, and he's trying to put them all together for people to watch on the site or whatever it is. It's a different take.
Yeah, so they have like this one.
Yeah, they did.
So
yeah,
it's this one, like there's one with Miss Piggy. It's called Lifestyle with Miss Piggy, and then there's
Mark
like
and G knows what we're talking
he
about.
does, yeah. And then there's one where like there was Swedish Chef doing a cook-off against another chef, and then there was Kermit the Frog doing an interview, and there was Walter and Kermit doing the photography thing.
Yeah.
And
there's a bunch of different things happening all at the same time, but yeah, exactly.
That they just all throw together, right? And then they put it into the show. So I mean, it is cute, and it does have a certain appeal because it's the Muppets, and I mean, like they are really the bar of which everything.
They're
judged by.
That's right, exactly.
I mean,
unfortunately, if I can interject,
go ahead.
I don't like it as much as the 2015 one.
Yeah, I agree.
But I didn't like the 2015 one as much as I liked the original 70s one.
Well, let's be honest.
You see, I mean, that's a bar that, I mean, it's going to take one hell of a lot to surpass that bar.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, when it comes to the Muppets, and I mean, if those of you that are watching, I don't know if you're Muppet fans. I've been a Muppet fan since I was
same here. Loved
a child. And
I mean, I was in high school when that original one was on.
See,
and every day, I know you weren't even born yet, for Christ's sake.
No, it started in. I believe the original Muppet Show started in '77.
No, it was earlier than that.
No, 76, 77.
But check it out because.
Yeah, but anyway,
Anyway, the point was, I would go to school the next day, and everybody would be talking about. Did you see that on the show last night? Did you see that? You know, we were all talking about it in school. So. I remember that show and how good it was, and I mean the stars that I mean, come on, they had RuPaul as a guest. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, how
1976. So I said 77. Yeah. So I was born in 76. That's when it started. There's 5 seasons, and I remember when I was little, like my mother, she would go down to the kitchen, and she'd take me, and I was just 2, 3 years old, but I still watched the Muppets, and of course Sesame Street, because Kermit and all of them were still kind of on the Sesame Street show. And she'd put me down on the floor while she was doing whatever in the kitchen, and she'd let me get out the pots and pans and the wooden spoons, and I'd pretend
I was the Swedish chef.
I would pretend I was the Swedish chef from right the time I was a little kid, and I'd be like, "Mork, mork, mork, mork," and I'd throw the.
And he still does that around here. So
occasionally I grab the mics and I'm like,
"That's right, he does." So it's and he throws them. Mic drop.
It's not a mic
seriously.
Drop with me.
It's just one of those things where
no dipping.
It'll be a hard show to beat.
Yeah,
that original one.
But let's be honest. When you look at the original Muppet Show, and I know we're getting a little off topic going back to talk about it, but when you look at the original Muppet Show,
no, it's still Muppets.
Jim Henson was around. Frank Oz was still voiced. Like there were so many of the originals that were doing the Muppets, right?
Yeah, which is not now.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. The guys that do the voices of them now,
I don't like Kermit.
They do a good job.
I don't like Kermit's voice. It didn't.
No, I agree.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's not that I don't like it. It's just it's not as good as the last fella, who
they fired. You said.
I believe it was he was fired. Yeah. But he had been Kermit for 15 years or something. Like it was a long time. He was Kermit, and he did a good job. So
it was time for him to hop out and let somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But nobody is going to ever be Jim Henson when it comes to
Christ,
Kermit, right?
no, never.
It's never. It's just like it's like when you listen to Miss Piggy and Fozzie, you can tell it's not Frank Oz.
Yep.
Okay, but now I do think Piggy and Fozzie sound more like Frank Oz's versions than
That's
the
right.
Kermit
Then
does.
Kermit does. Yes, big time.
But I mean, still, there's not going to be anybody that does them. I mean, like he did.
Nope.
And I get that. I mean, these people aren't going to live forever, and they want to continue the Muppets on for kids for years, and I can't blame them a bit because.
But if you've never watched the old stuff, you have nothing to base it on.
Oh, I believe it's a requirement that they understand where it's coming from. I mean,
No. I'm talking about the audience.
Oh.
If people watch, let's say they start with this particular show now, if they
Right.
start watching it, then that to them is what it is.
Yeah.
They've got nothing to base it on from
Well,
before. So,
But you can go on, like, if you're watching this on Disney Plus, you can go on Disney Plus and you can watch all the original, like, all the Muppet movies. Every Muppet movie ever made, right from the very
but
first
they don't have
one
the
Jim
original
Henson-
70s show on there.
Not yet, but they will. It
You
is
think so?
coming.
Oh.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's already been said it's coming. So
Oh,
it will
okay.
it will be coming. You can watch the 2015 Muppet Show. I'm sure they'll put Muppets Tonight, which was the 90s Muppet Show on.
Because I have some of them on
I have
on
three of the
DVD.
I have three seasons
I think
of
I
the
have
Muppet
three or
Show. They
three
only
or so.
released 3 of them.
Is it
on
3? Then
DVD,
I've
and I
got
have
3
them.
then, because I got them
But
all.
you will.
Steve helped me get them. Here's to you, Steve.
Eventually, you will get to see them, so they are going to be on there. I mean, like, eventually, Disney Plus will have everything that's Disney's content on there anyway, which is more titles than anybody else has. So,
Well, yeah.
like, it is what it is, right? But it'll be there. But I mean, you can hear the differences in the voices a bit and stuff, and I get that. Like, they try their best, and I'm not going to fault them for trying their best. I agree with you. Kermit's voice isn't Kermit, but
Again, now too, I want to find like RuPaul as your first guest.
well, it wasn't
I mean,
just
nothing against
RuPaul.
RuPaul.
There was
but
RuPaul. There was RuPaul. There was that
that
other
chef
fella.
guy, yeah. But
There was that other fella who was with Piggy during doing the slap,
yeah,
and then another colored fella, which I can't remember his name, and then there was the colored lady that was the chef, opposite
Right,
Swedish chef. And I
right.
can't remember her name. Whatever she was making though looked good.
did look good.
So,
But I
I'm-
mean, I'm used to seeing,
Maybe it was
Kenny
just-
Rogers and seeing, names that
yeah,
just.
but they haven't had those in like.
I know, but I'm just saying, surely there could have been people.
Well, what? RuPaul's been around forever. He was on the last Muppet Show, the 2015 one.
I know, but I'm just saying, like that.
Maybe
to me, that's
all
not
the guests were black, so maybe it was their black episode.
well, maybe I don't know.
Maybe they
Black
wanted to have
Lives
all-
Matter, kind of. Well,
Yeah, maybe they wanted to have all black people on for Black Lives Matter. You never know. I mean, I don't know how they picked it, but
Okay. Well, anyway, I think they could have started off with a bigger bang, personally. But that's just it's only my opinion,
it's not supposed to be about the celebrities.
No, but they were all, well, anyway, that's just me.
Yeah, I know. It's not like the original Muppet Show. The original Muppet Show, they had a special guest, and the special guest was in different acts throughout the whole show. This isn't like that because it's not the special guest. It's the same thing as, like, even the 2015 show, they had special guests on, but they were in
Who
very...
was it, Marky G?
They were in very...
Cardellini was on it. She's a
Linda Cardellini.
Okay.
Linda
Yeah.
Cardellini, not Linda...
Tay Diggs, that was the guy.
Not
that was
Linda Carlini.
No.
Cardellini.
That's what I said, didn't I?
No, you said Carlini.
Oh, Cardellini. Okay, Tay Diggs, yeah, that was the black guy. I know him.
So, but anyway,
Cardellini, that's her, yeah.
yeah, she played Velma in Scooby Doo.
Yeah. Good.
And she
And
plays.
there's Tay Diggs,
She
yep.
plays Hawkeye's wife in the MCU.
Okay.
So-
And, of course, RuPaul. Good.
But anyway,
Thanks, Marky G.
not important.
Carolina Will.
Okay.
She must have been with the Swedish chef.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, not important.
No, it's good because now we
But-
know who it is. There she is. Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
But anyway, like
Thanks, Marky G.
the show is, like I said, if you watch it, it's not like the original. It's not like the 2015 one. It's its own thing, and I don't know how successful or not successful it'll be. But
Give it a shot anyway.
I'm going to give it a shot. I will watch the whole
because
thing.
it's the Muppets. I mean,
because
I
it's
will
the
too.
Muppets. I will
you know?
support it because it's the Muppets, and I like the Muppets, and I want them to succeed with the Muppets. I just think that they've struggled with the Muppets and what to do with them since Jim Henson has passed. Honestly, I think they've really struggled with what to do with them, and that's too bad because there's so many things they can do with the Muppets to make them really good. Like, you remember that little short we watched last week when we were here we were working, and it was the Swedish Chef versus Chef Ramsay, the food truck fight.
Yeah.
You know, like that was done around the time of the Muppets Most Wanted movie, which was in, I believe, 2017 or 2018.
Right.
You know, that was funny, and it was like 10 minutes. It was like it would be like a little skit they could put in this new Muppet show, and it would have been like, you know, it was funny. They still do little things like that are still kind of funny, and they're still good at it. So I don't know what it is with the new show. So, I mean, maybe it just needs to catch its legs.
That could be too. Maybe
You know,
it just
I mean,
it needs to get
let's be
its
realistic.
sea legs or get whatever you want to call it. That
you
could
look
be.
at Star Trek: The Next Generation,
I mean,
and
by the same token, look how we started.
the first 2 seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation are total garbage.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't even get its legs till season
Dude,
3.
look how we, like
Deep
I said,
Space
look
Nine
how
was
we
the same
started.
thing.
You know, compared to where we are
Yeah.
now.
But I mean, Deep Space Nine, same thing. Didn't even get its legs till season 3. Really, the end of season 2 when they introduced the Dominion. Like, so there's so many shows where they don't get it.
Right. They have to get a momentum.
You know, right? They struggle with stories or whatever, and maybe that's all it is. They're.
And we can relate to that. So it's all.
I mean, not everything we do is.
Dude, when we first started,
You know.
I mean, we had no idea where we were going with this. We just threw it out there and we started, you know, you and I and
That's right.
Thundercat, and we were just going. And,
So-
you know, then Mark comes into it and then we start getting this side and that side. And I mean, we're starting to get our stride now.
So anyway,
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
You're just going to ignore me, aren't you? I'm not going to let you
Because I want
ignore
to
me.
talk about the shows.
I
I
just
don't want
wanna
to talk
make-
about this.
I want to
That's
make
why.
sure that I give, you know, the.
Yes, everybody knows.
Yeah, well,
You talk about it all the time.
No, I
They all
don't.
know. Yeah, they do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, they do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, they do.
You want to argue?
You want to shut up?
Is
Want
this the
fresh one,
5-minute
Jelly?
argument or
The full half hour? How much? What did you pay for? No, really, the again, I'm like you. I didn't like it as much as the last one, and I didn't like the last one as much as the one before that, and I didn't like that one as much as the original, and you know. But again, it's the same thing with most things. I find very few things can compare to the originals. Like a good example would be Star Trek. Okay, let's look at Star Trek. Okay, you have the original series, okay, and you have William Shatner's Captain Kirk. And then you have the reboot, and you have J.J. Abrams having Chris Pine be James T. Kirk.
Mhm.
Nothing against Chris Pine. He's a wonderful actor,
He'll never
very
be
talented,
William
but he's
Shatner.
not William Shatner, and he's not Kirk.
Nope.
He will never be Kirk. He's not. Unfortunately, there will never really be somebody until they can capture the essence of how.
or clone him?
Well, not
you know.
even that, but someone who can capture the essence of the way William Shatner portrayed Kirk. Like a good example would be how Brandon Routh captured Christopher Reeve's
That
Superman.
was phenomenal.
Okay.
Yes, that was every bit as good as Chris Reeve
Like
because
he
he
copied
nailed it.
He copied his mannerisms. He copied his speech pattern. He copied his look. Everything,
Yeah.
right?
He nailed that.
If they can get somebody who can do that, like I think, as an example, like I don't like what's his face who plays Spock in the reboot either, Zachary Quinto.
Zachary Quinto.
I like Zachary Quinto, but he's not Spock. He's not Leonard Nimoy.
No.
But I think the guy who plays Spock on Discovery is closer, and I still don't think he's great as Spock. He's
Right,
I think he's
okay.
better than Zachary Quinto. But again, like it's just there's certain things that are just going to be hard pressed. Now,
Yeah, there's a lot of people that you will be very hard to.
duplicate.
Yeah,
and
duplicate, that's the word.
honestly, I think that's the problem with doing things like reboots. Is when you do reboots, what you end up with is people trying to
Emulate.
emulate or do something that's just it's just don't do reboots. Just don't reboot things. If the original is there, let people watch the original and enjoy it. Okay? Like
So you're basically saying you can't reinvent the wheel.
you can't. And a good example of that is what the next show we're going to talk about when we get into it. But when it comes to so many things, and you look at reboots, like look at Dukes of Hazzard. Okay, they rebooted it with.
That was shit.
I know, and they rebooted it with what's the young guy?
Johnny
Johnny Knoxville,
Knoxville.
and who was the other fellow there? Anyway, but you know who
Anyway.
I mean, and Willie Nelson.
Yeah,
And,
poor Willie shouldn't have been in
Right?
there. Anyway,
like, you know, if you listen to John Snyder talk about it, you know, again, he has nothing but wonderful things to say about those actors because he doesn't blame them.
nope.
He blames the people who made the movie.
Yeah.
You know, he said actors can only act and do what they're given.
That's
They
right.
can only go so far, and he's 100% right.
He is.
You can only take that so far, and then they piece it together. These people who were making the movie piece it together, and they put forth the vision of the film they want,
That's right.
not what the actors want. And I think the problem is when you do these reboots, you lose something that the original captured very well.
Yep.
A
And
good-
I agree with that.
A good example would be Knight Rider. Okay, Knight Rider.
You wanna throw that over on the table for
They've
me?
tried to reboot a couple
Thank
of
you.
times. Okay, they did one. I believe it was in the late '90s, and it was called Team Knight Rider. And then they did the other one, which was in like 2008, I believe, which was where they had the guy playing Michael Knight's son, and his name was Michael Knight, and the car was the new Ford Mustang or whatever.
I vaguely remember it. It was
Anyway.
shit, though.
But throughout that, one of the things they did was when they introduced Carr in that, they got one of the good things they did was they got Peter Cullen to reprise the voice of Carr, which was great because in the original Knight Rider, Peter Cullen was the first voice of Carr. So when they redid the new one,
He wasn't the voice of Kit, though.
No,
No. Yeah.
So when they redid it, of course, but then because at the time Transformers had just come out, the Transformers movie
Is
came out
Cullen
in
doing the
2000
voice of...
No.
I didn't think so.
Had come out in 2007, and Transformers was really big. So when you look at the new Knight Rider, it had this ability to basically convert into other vehicles.
So they made
know.
a Transformers
Well,
almost...
it could transform into a truck, and then when they introduced Carr wasn't just like the opposite, where it could convert into another vehicle. The friggin' thing transformed into a giant robot, and it was just like, oh good God, come on! Like it's stupid
Cross
things like that. Like
thing,
they're throwing out too many. And when they do these reboots, that's
they
what they're
rebooted
doing.
Hawaii Five-0. They rebooted Magnum.
Yep.
You know, which both of those weren't bad because I
They're
watched
not
them.
the originals, are they?
They're not the originals,
Exactly.
but they were decent enough that I watched them. You know, because
Right.
some of them, I mean, the reboots, I wouldn't even watch them. But
That's what I mean. So it's
So,
the
I mean,
same
it-
thing when it comes to the Muppets. It's like every time they do the Muppets, it's like they're trying to. I guess what I'm gonna get at with the Muppets is what they're doing is they're trying to make it relevant to the time we live in.
Yeah,
Like, the Muppets don't need to be relevant to the time we live in. The Muppets need to be the Muppets. So, if you take the original Muppet Show as an example, the original Muppet Show could be a show that operates today. It's just people in a theater putting on
A show.
plays and shows, and it's basically like a smaller version of Broadway. And they still have Broadway. You can still go
course
see
you
live
can.
plays and
Yeah.
shows and acts and stuff. You can that could fit in any time period. I mean, yeah, okay, you look at the back room where they always had and the foam was a little outdated because it was one of them hanging ones on the
That's right.
wall and whatever and stuff, But, I mean, for the most part, that show could take place today and it would make no difference. The
That's
only
true,
difference would be the outfits the actors are wearing because obviously they're dated by the time period that
yeah,
way.
that's true.
But the rest of it isn't. It's the same thing with the talk show one they did in 2015 and the one they did called Muppets Tonight in the 1990s. It was another talk show one. And those shows could still be today because we still have late night talk shows.
Yeah,
you don't
they do.
have
So
to-
it could... Yeah,
Right?
okay, I follow
this
your logic
new
there.
one, when you look at it, it's all about the way people are looking at things today, as opposed to thinking, well, I think they're dating themselves prematurely. I don't think you should be. I guess my beef with it is when you start throwing out things that are going to date it, like
But isn't that hard to do? Because, I mean, you watch any old show and you know it's dated, even though
To an extent, yes. But I guess what I'm getting at is there's things you can do that won't date something. And then there's other things that will, like, I mean, obviously there's always going to be some things in a show that date it. And it will be clothing styles, hairstyles, whatever, right?
Yep.
But technology is a dangerous step when it comes to shows because it really dates them. Like, it really dates them.
Yeah.
Okay? Like,
Okay, let me
you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, there's certain things
there
that
is-
just they're going
I
to date the
understand
show
what you're
right
saying.
away. Or like
But-
time period jokes.
But you have to understand there's only so much you can do to try to not date it. You can't.
Well, no, I know, but what I'm getting at is I'm not saying ignore technology, but what I'm saying is like don't focus on it as a key thing.
Okay. All right.
Right?
That I can agree with.
So,
then.
like,
Okay.
as an example, like, as everybody knows, COVID-19 has been enveloping the world and going crazy, and
it's not over yet.
no, it's not. And, you know, so a lot of things are going to the web, right? And
Right.
a lot of things are going to YouTube and stuff. And when people look back in history and they look at the COVID-19 pandemic, okay, they're going to see this dated period of time on YouTube.
That's right.
Okay, it's going to be extremely dated because now it might become less dated as time goes on because more of these pandemics may happen and whatever as we go forward. But if by chance say they don't, and this is just like an odd one-off, then it will really date things. It's like when you look back in history and you go, okay, look at the 60s. Well, what happened during the 60s? Well, holy shit, there's a lot of things that really date the 60s.
Of course, peace and love, baby, and
There's a lot of things that really date the 70s.
Woodstock and
Right? Like when people hear disco, that was the 70s.
That's right.
You know? Like when people hear, when people think of when rock and roll
staying
started,
alive.
rock and roll, they're going to think, oh, the 50s, right?
Yeah, of course.
They're going to, you know, when they think of, like Happy Days is a dated show because it was based in the 70s but took place in the 50s.
That's right.
Right? So it dated itself that way intentionally. But then you watch a show like, say,
That 80s show,
that.
they called it.
Well, no, because that was supposed to take place during the 80s, just like that 70s show, right? So it's supposed to date itself.
Okay, all right.
I guess what I'm thinking of is like a good one would be Modern Family. That was on over the last like decade
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Modern Family is going to be dated at some point, just like Seinfeld or just like
Well, that was very 80s, Seinfeld.
Seinfeld was in the 90s.
It looked very 80s to me.
But it's dated, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like Friends, okay? Friends is still an immensely popular show.
But it's
But you
dated.
watch it and it's dated.
Yeah.
And there's things about it that date it. And that's what I'm getting at is like, and I mean, I get a lot of it had to do with the fact that they were, you know, young people and they were into what young people were into in the 90s and blah, 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 blah. But I'm just saying that I think with the Muppets, what they're doing with this new Muppets Now show is they're definitely dating themselves because they're doing things like as if it's like little web series, right? Well, web series aren't going to be around forever.
No, they won't.
You know,
Of course not.
eventually
That's-
they'll go away, just like so it'll date it as a, whereas if they did it more like it was just like the original Muppet Show or a talk show, it's not going to date it as much because those things, we're always going to have people who perform for others on stage. We're always going to have that. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how far in the future we go. There's always going to be people that will want to entertain other people by getting up on stage and either being a
performing
comedian
something.
or performing or singing or whatever, right? That will never date itself. The music might, the outfits might, but the concept
The concept
is
won't.
what I'm
You're
getting
right.
at. Yeah, the concept won't be dated.
Okay.
Their concept for the new show will date it. That's what I guess.
Okay. That
Anyway.
I will agree with.
Yeah, so that's what I guess. I get long about way for me to get my point because I was trying to
Well,
figure out how to do
I
it. But
couldn't quite grasp what you were talking about, but
that's
now
what
I got
meant,
you.
is the
Okay.
concept, I guess, and I don't know why it was eluding me for so long, but it was.
But we got it. So
Yeah.
okay, I got you.
So anyway, the next thing we're going to talk about is there's a new Transformers series. It is on Netflix. It's called Transformers War for Cybertron Siege. It's 6 episodes, and it really is meant to. You're really meant to pretty much watch it in one stint. Each episode is about 22 minutes long, and
It's not Peter Cullen, right, doing the voice
No,
for...
it's not
No, I
Peter
didn't
Cullen
think
or
so.
Frank Welker.
I didn't think so.
It,
It didn't sound...
but it's meant to be watched as a whole, like a mini movie all pieced together, because it's 6 episodes of season 1. Season 2 will be 6 episodes, and it's going to be called War for Cybertron, Earthrise, and then the third one is going to be 6 episodes, and it's going to be War for Cybertron, Kingdom. So each one is going to tell a story. So the basics for this one, if you are a Transformers fan, and I know you probably have a ton of questions.
I have all kinds of questions, but I'll
So
save
the
them to
original-
you, give the main thing.
Yeah, the original premise for this show is if you're a Transformers fan and you
Well,
watch...
that's one of my questions. What was the premise of it? Thank you.
Okay.
So you're answering one of my questions right off the
The
bat.
premise is if you're a Transformers fan and you've been around with Transformers like me since the 80s, like I grew up with them, the very, very, very first episode, they're on their home planet of Cybertron, and their goal is that they're looking for Energon and they can't find it. And the very first 2 characters we see are Wheeljack and Bumblebee. And what is the first thing they end up encountering on their way back with a little bit of Energon that they're trying to bring back to their base? Seekers. So characters like Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp. Well, one of the wonderful nods that this show did do is it started the exact same way, pretty much. It's not the exact way, but the first 2 characters we see are Wheeljack and Bumblebee looking for Energon, and they get captured by the Seekers right off the bat, which was a really cool nod to the original.
So they did that right.
Well, it's not about doing it right. It's just a nod to the original. The way it is the premise is, of course, the Transformers are divided into 2 factions: Autobots and Decepticons, as everybody out there knows. And the Autobots are led by Optimus Prime. The Decepticons are led by Megatron. The Autobots are on the verge of extinction, and the reason is because a civil war broke out between the 2 groups. Now, originally, the backstory is, and this is one thing the show doesn't explain very well. If you watch all 6 episodes, it still doesn't explain it very well. So if you're a newbie like yourself to it, it doesn't explain it very well. But the basics is at one point, Optimus Prime and Megatron were friends.
Didn't he die?
Optimus Prime? In the original show, yes.
Okay.
Years
So,
ago.
see, that was one of the things
So,
I was confused by. Okay.
So, in the past, they were friends. And the way it was is, I believe the way they have it set up in this one is that Optimus Prime used to be known as a robot called Orion Pax before he was given the Matrix of Leadership, which made him Optimus Prime and made him leader of the Autobots. Now, for millions upon millions upon millions of years, Cybertron was ruled by the Autobots. And the Autobots became...
Too big for their britches?
I guess, like most governments, they became corrupt to an
No.
extent. Not
Governments
everybody
aren't corrupt.
Not everybody in them, but
That was sarcasm, by the way.
but eventually and Megatron was a miner. Originally, he was designed and built to be an Energon miner, and he left doing that to become a gladiator and fight in the gladiatorial pits. And during that time is when him and Optimus Prime became friends. Well, of course, he was known as Orion Pax at that point, but they became friends. And
Wasn't that a Roman cannibal?
what?
He was gladiator?
Anyway, so they became friends.
Boom.
And
Sorry, it was there.
they became friends, and together they saw the corruption in the Autobot government. They saw the corruption in it. And they were both students in this version of the Transformers. They were both students and followers of Alpha Trion, who is the creator of Optimus Prime. He's the one who built him in the original show, so I don't know if they're going to keep it this way in this one or not. But they both followed him, and they both wanted to fight for the same thing, which was the freedom of every Transformer.
That's what they were talking about in this one, the freedom of the whole thing.
They,
I got that.
They
right.
were, this just
And one doesn't want them to have freedom, and the other does, kind of
well,
things.
it's not that they don't want. They both want the same thing. They just want to do it in different ways. So what happened is, at some point, Megatron ended up killing Alpha Trion. In this version, I don't know how or why they have never explained it, and they don't explain it. You watch 6 episodes and they still don't explain it. But it's why when they're talking about, when Optimus Prime says to Megatron, he says, "I think Alpha Trion would be disappointed
Yes,
in you."
I remember that,
And
yeah.
he says, and then Megatron says, "I think he'd be disappointed in both of us
Yeah,
a bit."
yeah.
And then he says, "Yeah, you're probably right." And it's because the two of them have gone to an extreme where, as you get from watching the first one, Optimus Prime refuses to accept a surrender that has been offered to him.
That's right.
Because
They said that.
Because Megatron's version of peace is that he wants to rule Cybertron with strength, under one voice, but in a way that allows Cybertron to be strong and for all the Transformers to be strong.
Who was the guy that didn't want to choose sides?
Bumblebee.
Is that Bumblebee? Okay.
Bumblebee.
Okay.
So now this is the first time they've ever made Bumblebee non-aligned at the beginning. So that's really weird.
Well,
but
eventually he ends up going.
He does
you know,
join the
but,
Autobots,
But
yes.
yeah, but
Out of-
at that point
out-
he didn't want to choose sides, I guess. Or,
which was and without spoiling anything for the rest of the season, because there's so much you're going to learn about them. Because people are going to watch it and they're going to be like, why is that character on the Decepticon side when he's an Autobot? Like, the biggest one in that sense is Jetfire. Jetfire starts out as leader of the Seekers.
was that the way it went originally?
Jetfire was never leader of the Seekers.
Okay. All right.
Jetfire originally is a scientist who was friends with Starscream. Originally. That was the original
Okay, so
plot
they've taken
between them.
changes on this one then.
He did join the Decepticons first, and then later he switched to the Autobots. So this show, he's a Decepticon first, and he's leader of the Seekers. So they've changed it a little bit, but
The basic premise is
the basic
same.
premise is
Okay.
kind of the
All right.
same there, I
Okay.
guess. So,
Thank you. You're answering questions I had as I went.
I get, like, the voices, in my opinion, are okay. They're not the best. The guy they've got doing Megatron is the same guy who did Megatron in the Machinima Transformers trilogy that aired 3 or 4 years ago. So he does a decent job of Megatron. The guy doing Optimus Prime is the guy who does the voice of... Look at that.
I know.
Is the guy who does the voice of Optimus Prime in the Transformers Cyberverse series, which is the Transformers show for little kids that's on right now. So he does his best to kind of emulate Peter Cullen. I think they really should have just got Peter Cullen. It would have brought the show up a
few
thousand
degrees.
fold.
Yeah, okay.
But the real standout performance is the one they have playing Elita 1.
Good, bad?
She's phenomenal.
Okay. All right.
Elita 1 in the original show was Optimus Prime's. Well, they called them girlfriend, but it was more like his counterpart. Like Alpha Trion built the two of them. And
Are you showing any here?
yeah, we'll show some of the original. You'll see it. In the original series, he built them because they were both originally damaged by Megatron in a fight, and then
Okay.
Alpha Trion rebuilt them. But
Because I figured you would show
yeah,
something.
but her performance, the woman that plays her does a great job. The character is really good. The voicing of it is done really well. The downside to the show is the same studio that did this show is the same studio that did Transformers Prime, which was 3 seasons that aired back in 2000 and I think it was 9, 10, and 11, or 10, 11, and 12, whatever.
Okay.
And so the studio's great at doing the animation. They used the CAD models that Hasbro sent them for the actual toys. So one of the cool things, I guess, for kids is if they're watching this show and they see the Transformers on the screen, they look exactly like the toy that they'll buy at the store.
Okay.
They transform the same way. They look the same way.
Okay.
right down to all the scuffs and marks and cracks and everything.
Wow.
Like,
Okay. So it's like really.
yeah,
okay,
they did
good.
a really good job that way
Cool.
of balancing it. But because they look exactly like the toys, they kind of look goofy when they move. A little bit goofy when they move. Because, I mean, it's really hard to get something big and blocky to look really good when it's running. And if you notice when they're running, they look kind of goofy. And we'll show
Okay.
some of that here.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, it's
okay.
basically but the premise is that it's the last days of the war. They're basically under a temporary truce in which Megatron has offered the Autobots the opportunity to accept his truce and accept him as leader of Cybertron instead of Optimus Prime, and the war will end. Well, the Autobots are refusing because they believe, as Optimus Prime's motto is, freedom is the right of all sentient beings. So, I mean, at one point, Wheeljack says that to Megatron right at the beginning when they capture him.
Right. Okay.
And Megatron says, the immortal words of your leader, or something,
yeah, something
like that. Right?
That's right.
And it's not that Megatron doesn't believe in it, because originally it started as a revolution to free everybody from the corrupt government, and at that one point, Optimus and Megatron were on the same side.
You said that, yeah.
So it's just that eventually it split and it put them into the war, and it's delved into. Now they're so
that's where this one is starting from,
exactly.
and going to continue.
And
okay.
as
All
Ultra
right.
Magnus says it when he's talking to Optimus Prime later, he says, "You're just as stubborn as Megatron is," and it's the truth. One is so adamant about this, and one is so adamant about this, that they refuse to see where they could meet in the middle and end it. Instead, they'd rather blow each other to bits. So that's sort of where it starts.
Okay.
And the
So that's
basis
episode one.
of this is the Autobots trying to survive the last few days of the war so that they can get away.
Okay.
And that's
where we're
it
at.
is. So that's
Okay.
where it is, and that's the first episode. So now, as somebody yourself who's never really
newbie to this.
You
pretty much
said before we aired, you said you thought it was boring.
I did. I
Yeah.
watched the first one, and I really and truly had a hard time to get through it. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe because I don't know the backstory. Maybe because I'm not. It was
What
just.
did you find boring about it? Because I'm going to tell you, I wasn't as as impressed with it as.
What did I find? It was just. It seemed like it was just a bunch of machines fighting.
Pretty much, that's exactly what you're supposed to get from it.
And it was like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah. 'Cause
If I want fighting, I'll go back to my ex-wife. No. I mean, really,
I know.
it was.
Yeah.
It was no. But
You can think of Megatron and Optimus as Megatron's your ex-wife.
Yeah, really.
It'll
It was
fit,
just
trust me.
Yeah, but it was just. Yeah. Well, I was going
What
to say
about
something.
I guess.
Should we start ex-wife bashing?
Yeah. Did you was it the pacing? Is it the
It seems slow.
animation? Is it the
It
voicing?
seems slow.
What
But again,
I know the story, like I said, doesn't explain the backstory.
Well, you see,
which
that's
makes
also
hard.
it. They were making references that I didn't.
You didn't get.
I didn't get, which obviously you're going through now and going, okay, that's why this, that's why.
Yes.
But you see, going into it, not knowing the backstory, doesn't help either.
Yeah.
So, as a newbie, telling you going into it as a newbie, be prepared. You know what? Best thing to do? Watch this guy talk about it. Get a bit of background, like I just did. At least that opens the door now for me for the next one. Now I'll watch the next one. I'll be a little bit more okay. And I can go, okay, okay, yeah, and I can put this shit together. Going, this is what he said. Okay. I had nothing going in.
Yeah, exactly. And
So
I get that.
It sort of bored the shit out of me because I didn't have anything going into it.
Right.
However, that opens doors. Going back on it, I go, okay. So I'll go into the second one a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But so if you're watching this before you watch it, at least now you can watch it with the mindset that I didn't have.
Yeah.
If you're watching it after the first, you're probably thinking the same thing. Maybe you're thinking, holy Jesus, was this boring or what? But now you know what I know.
Yeah.
But without giving it away, where is this supposed to lead?
Exactly like I said. It leads to the Autobots.
freedom of...
It leads to the Autobots escaping from the
Okay,
Decepticons.
all right. All right. Well, there you go.
That's where
that's
it
where we're
leads.
headed.
It leads. I won't tell you who survives, who
No,
doesn't
but-
survive, who joins who leaves who whatever. I won't tell you any of that stuff because if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it that way because that's stuff that we'll talk about as those episodes
As they go,
watch.
okay.
But it's it really is about the Autobots, and as they say, even in the first episode, they're just trying to survive because they're so outnumbered.
All right.
And one thing you gotta understand about the differences between Autobots and Decepticons, and it's probably like I don't know if you noticed, but the character Red Alert explained it. He said, "Before the war, I was a doctor,
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
and now I'm a soldier,
Yeah.
or whatever. They put a gun into my hand, and I'm a soldier, right?" And the problem is, and this has always been the case with the Autobots, right? Since the very original Transformers, the Autobots were never fighters. The Autobots were always scientists, engineers. Doctors, medics. They were the
brains behind it
They were
all?
the civilization part. Like the Decepticons were the military vehicles, the construction vehicles.
Okay.
They were the ones that did they built the weapons. They fought the wars. That's how they were divided originally, and they've kind of kept to that. Like the Seekers originally. Were basically in the original history of the Transformers, the Seekers were led by Starscream, and they were essentially all the Seekers were under his command even before the war, and they were the Air Force
Okay.
of Cybertron. So they were the ones that defended the skies and space around Cybertron and whatever. That was their job.
Okay.
No matter, they weren't Autobots, they weren't Decepticons, they were just known as the Seekers, and that was what their job was. So, like, every Transformer had a purpose. Like, Megatron was a miner. There's another one there. I don't know if they introduced him in the first episode or not, or they're going to, but his name's Impactor.
Okay.
And you'll see him. He's orange and purple, and but he again is. Like Megatron, he was a miner originally. Like he has a drill on his arm and stuff. Like there's things you're gonna see that. So it's that kind of idea where they all originally had like Wheeljack is an inventor. That's why they have him. That's why he gets so excited when he sees the space bridge thing, right?
Okay.
It's like Red Alert says he was a medic. Well, they all had these jobs before. If you know,
But now these jobs are out the window, and
because they're fighting
that's right,
a war,
exactly,
and they're
yeah.
fighting to survive.
Well, that's realism too, in a sense.
It is,
So
and it's one of the things about it. Like if you watch the original Transformers show from the '80s, and the first 3 episodes are probably some of the best Transformer show ever. The original trilogy, More Than Meets the Eye, it's 3 episodes, and it's probably the best. But at one point, one of the Autobots lose a fight. And because they pretty much lose throughout the whole thing, right until the very end, and then they... one of the Autobots looks at Optimus Prime, who was voiced by the wonderful Peter Cullen at that point, and he says to him, "But we're not fighters like they are." And Optimus Prime looks and he says, "Yes, but we must have courage because we're the only ones that can stop them." Like that kind of like there's no one else that can. The only ones that have a shot at it are this ragtag group of engineers and doctors and scientists and whatever that have just been thrust forward to fight when there's no one else to stop them. No one else is as powerful as them or even close. Now, the one thing that I was very disappointed with was the fight in the first episode between Optimus Prime and Megatron. Megatron all but flattens Optimus Prime in that first
yes,
fight.
I saw that.
And that is absolutely ridiculous because it's the one thing they got wrong. Optimus Prime is incredibly
Because he was about
powerful.
to do something, and somebody shot something out of his arm, or shot his arm off, or did something. Yeah.
Alita 1 shoots the sword out of
Right.
Megatron's arm.
So it was.
But one of the things that they got wrong is, and they talk about this in the show, is Optimus Prime has the matrix of leadership. And the matrix makes Optimus Prime extremely powerful. He has the wisdom of all of the former leaders of Cybertron.
So it's like having the Infinity Stones or something? It kind
Not
of gives
like
them...
that. It's more like if a good example would be, say, okay, say you believe in God. Okay. Well, the Transformers have a god. Their god is called Primus, and Primus is actually Cybertron itself.
Okay.
And
he gives them power.
Primus created the Matrix and gave it to the very first one of the original 13, which is the original first 13 Transformers ever created. Primus created them. He gave one of them the Matrix. And Alpha Trion, who they talk about in the first, is one of the original 13. And so as the Transformers have evolved over time and
Alpha Trion had
the
Matrix.
I don't believe he ever had it. I believe he was the guardian of it at one point and gave it to Optimus Prime. But the Matrix is like a fountain of wisdom and knowledge, and it's like a massive computer that not only contains all of the information that every leader has ever gained before, but it also has the essence of Primus in it. So it would be like if God went, okay, here is this small object, and I'm going to give it to you, and it has small essence of my power in it. So it would make that person incredibly wise and strong.
Right.
Okay. Well, the same thing. It gives Optimus Prime power that makes him almost unrivaled in strength.
Okay, so that it wasn't accurate when he did that to him.
Yeah,
unless he let him do it.
And I can't see him letting him do it. Is Megatron strong? Oh yeah, he is extremely strong. But he's not
that strong.
He's not strong enough to just cold-handedly beat Optimus Prime the way he beat him.
Okay. So there were a few.
Because there are throughout the history of the Transformers, in every show that there's ever been, right from the original right up till now, there has been many, many battles between Optimus Prime and Megatron. Optimus Prime loses some, wins some. Megatron wins some, loses some. Same idea. But Optimus Prime is never portrayed as weak as he was in this. To the point where he literally got curb stomped, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was like, are you serious? Like there is nobody stronger than Optimus Prime on the Autobot side. Nobody. There's no character that's been introduced that is as strong as him. There's no character on the Decepticon side as strong as him, save for possibly Megatron. And if it comes down to physical strength, Optimus Prime's stronger, physically stronger, because
so it wasn't
he has
accurate
the
at all.
Matrix.
Okay. Good.
He's less willing to be as destructive as Megatron, or as less cruel, or as less underhanded. So that's why he loses fights, is because he's not willing to sacrifice his morals, essentially,
to win a fight.
Where Megatron
will
be
do
like,
that. Yeah.
You're already down, I'm going to kick you.
Yeah.
Whereas Optimus Prime
wouldn't do that. Right. Okay.
You know, he'd be the first to reach his hand down, help you up, and then get sucker punched because he helped you out.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean he's weak. Doesn't mean he's not as strong or stronger.
It's just what it is.
It's just what it is.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I just don't think they portrayed right. But that said, hopefully it'll get explained later on that he'll become stronger. I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe it just was he did it for whatever reason. I have no idea. Maybe it was because they were outnumbered. I really don't know what his reasoning there was, but...
All right. Well, there's your first episode.
Anyway, so that's it. Anyway, that said... I guess that's where we'll end it this week, because I really want to thank you guys for watching, and be back next Monday for another brand new episode of Let's Talk with the Saw Season 2.
Thanks, Marky G, for doing the camera.
Yes, thanks so much.
And the sound and everything and all that.
And all these wonderful images that are here behind us. And we will see you guys next week. Till then, have a great one. Please check out the Jersey Ham, all of our other content, all of our vlogs, everything right on Superlative Radio and on our YouTube page. Please like, subscribe, share as much as possible.
Please do.
You know, if if you can, if you think, oh, gee, I'm not a Transformers fan, but somebody else I know is, get them to watch this. Or maybe, oh, someone else I know is a Muppet fan, get them to watch, or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Tell them, this is when this starts, this is when this starts. We'll put time links below so you can go to when each thing starts. So you can say, oh, it's in the description below. You can see when each one starts if they only want to watch the Space Force or the Muppets or the Transformers thing, and it's all there. So check it all out, and please
And please
see you
check
guys
out the
next
rest
week.
of our shows. That's
right.
the other thing. So we'll
Thanks
see you
so
guys
much.
next week. Thanks.